and welcome back. It's your girl Yummy.com, and we're back with another video. This video is very near and dear to my heart because much like my canceled series, it's like people that I feel have been unjustly given what they don't deserve, not their fairy tale ending with their intended. So I am going to talk about ships, aka relationships on the internet, if you're 80, that should have sailed, guys. That should have been the main driving cause of their dramas. And to start off with, we're gonna start with Nickelodeon. We're gonna start off with a Nickelodeon ship that is highly underrated, that I believe most people don't believe in because they were so concentrated on the love triangle that was the show. They didn't even think that this person could possibly be with another person. I'm talking about Beck and Cat. Yes, Beck and Cat from the lovely show Victorious. Now, obviously we all know, if we've watched Victorious, that the main character is Victoria. So you would think we would be focusing on her love interest, but she has a bunch of qualms other ways, like whether people think she should be with Andre or be with Beck or be with Robbie. Not judging if you think so, but also kind of judging. Anyways, I, however, don't believe in that. A lot of the problems or like debate worthy things of ships are, should Beck have been with Victoria or Jade? Jade is our emo queen, our dark mistress of the night, our sorceress of scissors, our banger singer. Like Victoria, I think it's Tori is probably well known as like the least likable character on Victorious, even though she was the main character. But the other characters were just so great that, like, you know, not that she wasn't likable, but she was definitely the least likable. Besides the point. The point is that I thought a different couple should have been together, and that is Beck and Cat. And I think that a lot of this is driven by the fact that I loved Avanjogia and I loved Ariana Grande, and I was like, why don't I just put these two characters together and make a beautiful relationship? There have been a couple ship videos about them, obviously, lots of fanfics, but I feel like it's a very underrated ship. A lot of the people ship Cat with Robbie or with Andre, and a lot of the people ship Beck with Victoria or with Jade, and I feel like we should all go against the grain and ship them together. The reason why I ship them together is because he was so calm, cool-headed. He was obviously known as the one who was like very chill about things. Him and Andre were the boys of the group. I mean, Robbie was also a boy, but like, let's be real, no one really considered him as a boy. They just considered him as Robbie. So Robbie and Andre were the boys of the group, and being the boys of the group, they were the chillest members. They were the ones that kept their heads cool.
I could care less.
I think you mean you couldn't care less.
What's that?
You said you could care less.
Which implies that you do care, at least a little bit.
I don't.
Well, then you should have said you couldn't care less.
As opposed to everybody else. Victoria with her constant drama, Kat with her manic depressive bipolarness, and Jade with her anger issues. So, that being said, it ended up that those two were the ones to keep the group calm. And that being said, also, Kat was the wildest one out of all of them. She had the most mood swings, the most wildness, the most weirdness, the most courageousness, and all these other things. And you know what? I loved her for it. We all loved her for it. She was ditzy queen. Like, she was the redhead cherry on top for Victorious. So I always just thought it made sense for the calmest character and the most wildest character to make the best couple. They were also the most talented couple. Like, while Jade is a phenomenal singer and a great actress and director, her character was kind of hard to handle, while Kat, in acting situations, put away her emotions and acted her little butt off. The same with Beck. They both had a passion for acting. While Beck didn't sing a lot, Kat had by far the best voice on the show. Like, it's kind of hard to rank Victorious because it's kind of like Andre, Jade, and Cat are all up here. Robbie's here, and then like Victoria's here, and then Beck is like here because he doesn't really sing. So it was kind of hard to rank them, but she, I think, had one of the best voices on the show, and he was by far the best actor on the show. So I thought we should ship them together, and that is my Nickelodeon ship, Victoria's Cat and Beck. For our next ship, I'm going to need my handy dandy phone in my hand. Let's see who we have.
A long time ago.
Barry,
Barry and Caitlin from Flash. Now, I'm not talking about Flash comics because that's a completely different ballgame, guys. We all know you don't mix the comics up with the TV shows or the TV shows up with the movies. So, I always, listen, I'm a big proponent of interracial love. I'm all for it. Ask anyone you know, ask anyone I know. They know I'm all for interracial love. So seeing Barry and Iris together was kind of cute, but I just couldn't help but to find Iris as the most annoying person to be on television. No offense to her, but like the way that they wrote her was just so useless to me that it kind of just was like, why is she even here? She's not his equal in any way, and I feel like relationships are all about balance and equality, and she is not his equal. Like, she's not the equal. Caitlin is. Caitlin was his equal. And even when they progressed in the seasons, Barry had his alter ego, and then Caitlin had her alter ego, Killer Frost.
I don't want to die when I've just started living. Okay? I finally have the chance to live a life. And now this stupid crisis is gonna take it all away?
I know it's not fair.
It made this interesting dynamic of the two. It made a beautiful story of like what the balance of power can do to you, whether you be evil or good that turns evil, or evil that turns good.
No, we're not abandoning you.
Whether it be either of those, it kind of made an interesting story for everything. And I feel like they were not given their fair shot to succeed because everyone was expecting Barry and Iris to be together because of the comics, because of everything else. And while they didn't take the Arrow route, which is creating a whole new character and just like letting them be, I appreciate Iris as an annoying person and as Barry's wife until we can finally kill her off and put Caitlin with him. Our next ship is... This is a very underrated ship, and this is like based off of solely one scene. I saw one scene of these two together and I was like, huh. It's Theon and Sansa from Game of Thrones. Now I know what you're thinking, Theon's dead, which is a travesty, might I add, travesty. Yes, he was the betrayer of Winterfell. Yes, he was the dickless coward, but like, he made it up when he saved Sansa. Saved. Helped save Sansa from Ramsay Bolton's clutches. Like, it was that experience, them crossing the cold river, all of that, that made me believe in their ship so deeply, especially on a show like Game of Thrones where there are so many ships that often die because the characters die. And like, don't get me wrong, Arya Gendry, high up on the list of ships, but like, they had their chance. And Arya is better for like sailing the seas and being the adventurer that she is, rather than being the lady of whatever Gendry is, House Baratheon. But a good storyline that they could have added instead of killing Theon. But I mean, it's good they killed him because he got his ultimate redemption. But instead of killing him, maybe making him the hand to the Queen of the North would have been a saucy little line that we could have all enjoyed, you know? Like, I mean, obviously they did what they thought was best. They gave him his redemption, which is all I really cared about in the end. But I think it would have been really, really cute to see him and Sansa kind of get together and just, like, you know, figure that shit out, you know? At least for a scene. Before he died, at least for a scene, I would have appreciated it. But, you know, we can't always get what we want. You can't always get what you want. You try sometimes. Our next couple is, boop, Hermione and Draco. I know what you're thinking. Hermione belongs with Harry. We're all thinking it. He's the main character. She's the main female. She should be the love interest. I think we could all just agree that she does not belong with Ron. She doesn't belong with Ron. She's better than that.
Ron, you spoiled everything.
She's better than him, and she's better than that. And the fact that we put her with Ron is ridiculous. Like, I think that we could all just agree on that fact alone. And then we can debate whether it's Draco or Harry that she should be with. Honestly, I like both ships. Like, both ships make sense to me because one is the enemy to friends trope, and the other is the, best friends fighting evil main girl trope that we all know and love. So either of them makes sense to me, but I just love the best friends to enemy trope because it just gives so much more flair and so much more fun to a story when, like, people hate each other and then all of a sudden they go to loving each other, you know? It's like a fun little, like, it's probably one of my favorite tropes. And the reason why I watch so much Katherine Heigl dramas, because that's literally all she does. Go from hate to love. And I appreciate it, girl. Even though you got kicked off Grey's Anatomy, I appreciate it. Anyways, I think that Draco and Hermione were by far made the cuter couple. Could have had a great storyline. I mean, not that I'm critiquing Harry Potter because I am in no way a good enough writer to critique Harry Potter, but I think that they just would have added a little zest to it. So for all of you who are looking for it, go to fanfiction and you can find some great content. While we were talking about Grey's Anatomy, we're going to go to our next ship, which is Jackson and April from Grey's Anatomy. Now, Shonda, let's talk woman to woman. Why did you break that couple up? It doesn't make any sense to me why you would break that couple up. They were beautiful. They were ethereal. They had this dynamic story that you saw coming out of nowhere, but we accepted and loved it. They got married off of a whim.
Or we get married.
Because that's easier to explain.
But still had deep issues, like their baby Samuel when he was gone, but then they had another child, Harriet, but it was so beautiful. Their story was dynamic and beautiful and lovely. Lovely, I say. However, they did not end up together. Jackson ended up eventually going to Maggie, and I guess April went with the EMT guy, the paramedic Matt, after his wife died, which was just a weird way of trying to write her off the show. Let's be real here. It was a very weird way to write her off the show. I feel like Jackson and April never got their proper shot at redemption.
I want you.
By the time Jackson was ready to forgive April for leaving him during the dark stress of, let's be real, one of the most horrifying, traumatic things you can face, losing your child, April wasn't ready to forgive him for taking so long, which was kind of weird and a little bit selfish, girl. A little bit selfish. But let's be real, Jackson was kind of an ass about the whole thing. I know you can say she left him alone and that wasn't okay. And absolutely, I agree. She left him alone and that wasn't okay. She only thought about what she needed and not what he needed, and that was wrong. But I have seen couples on Grey's Anatomy go through the motions and move way past that and have conquered things way worse than this. So it just made no sense to me how we had this whole epic romance of a beautiful couple that should still, in theory, be together, rather than a couple who is technically related. Like, I'm all for black love, but you guys are technically related. That's like Jackson dating Meredith. It's weird because you're technically brother and sister in like some kind of respect. Even Jackson dating Meredith is less of a blood relation than Jackson dating Maggie. Weber is her real father. Her real father and his real stepfather. Like, it's weird. Like, I'm not here to kink shame, but like, come on. Come on. Especially when he had such a beautiful relationship with April, where they learned to depend on each other, where they started as friends and moved into this beautiful thing of seeing each other through adulthood and through trauma and trouble.
I am not an ugly duckling. I'm a swan. And a surgeon, a freaking kick-ass surgeon who, by the way, has had sex before.
To just have Maggie pop up and be like, hey, boo. And he'd be like, hey, boo. Like, I don't know. I didn't like it. I didn't like the feeling of it. I feel like if Jackson was alone, maybe I would like it more. If they just both, if she left the show by herself alone and he was still on the show alone, I think I'd feel better about it. But the fact that they both have now significant others that are just both stupid, like she's with a guy that she left at the altar for Jackson and he's with a girl who's technically his sister. Like, it just makes no sense to me. Sounds very stupid. And they had such a beautiful relationship. They have a beautiful child together and a beautiful understanding, and it showed like this whole mixing cultures, mixing faiths, and how that could work out and how that couldn't work out and what you should do. And it was just such a beautiful dynamic that we don't see on television a lot, because a lot of us focus on the interracial or the very big differences, but none of us talking about the faith difference between couples. And I think that's grossly overlooked, and that they did that and we didn't appreciate it when we had it. So we're gonna go with our next couple, seeing as that. We have Riley and MacGyver, and unlike the rest of the couples on this list, they still have a chance to be together. So this may be preemptive, but they should be together. Like, I'm sick of seeing MacGyver hook up with every girl on their team except for Riley. It's weird. So for those of you who don't know, there is a reboot of the show MacGyver, starring Lucas Till, who is also, yes, the guy from the Miley Cyrus movie. Not the last song, the actual Hannah Montana movie, him. He has become MacGyver, and I was a little skeptical when seeing him do the role. Not seeing him do the role when I heard the casting, but I fell in love with him as MacGyver, and I thought it was a beautiful story. Then I fell in love with Riley and Bose, and just all these different characters, Maddie, and I loved it. And I was like, oh my god, from the second he held her hands in the jail, like where he was like, broke off her cuffs, I was like, yeah, they definitely belong together. Am I the only one who sees this? I think they definitely belong together. And then this recent season, season 4, hell yes. Like, he saved her from the bomb tumbling down onto her. That extended hug at the end of it. How she was the only one who really believed in him when everyone thought he turned to the side of evil, like his genetics have destined him to be. No, she was like, I'm a ride or die for you, bruh. I believe in you wholeheartedly. We are it. When she broke up with her boyfriend and went to his house and brought food because she knew he would be hungry, that is love. If you bring me a burrito, we're now in love. That's it. That's it. You can't debate it. It's love. It's love, bitch. Literally, that's love, bitch. Like, that's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. They belong together. They're both intellectually stimulating. They both believe that they're cursed to never really have a stable relationship.
Maybe in our line of work, we just don't get to have that.
It has been proven that his current girlfriend doesn't work. Like, when they ended up breaking apart the team, they broke up because they couldn't handle each other when the stress of saving the world wasn't there. And it's wild to think that they thought it will survive. Like, how? How, Sway? How? Anyways, I think it's a beautiful sentiment that they are together, that they should be together. You know, it makes sense. It just makes sense for the show. I guess the show is kind of maybe doing that thing that Lizzie McGuire did where they're waiting to the very last moment to put them together because that way more people watch because they want to see them together. But I don't appreciate it. I feel like there's so many epic storylines you could have with them being a couple, and that necessarily doesn't make it awkward for Desi, who is his current girlfriend. That being said, I'm not going to fault you, MacGyver. You still have a chance to right this wrong, unlike everybody else on the list. So, we're going to go to the next couple. Next we have Eponine and Angelos. Now, if you don't know who I'm talking about, you uncultured swine, I'm talking about the couple from Les Mis. While they were not technically a couple in Les Mis, the musical, I think there's some hints in the book that could give us otherwise. I have always been a hater of Marius and Cosette. If you know what I'm talking about, Les Mis is the story of the French Revolution, essentially. And there's this couple, this girl, outstanding, scrappy, born on the streets. Her name is Eponine, and she's longing for the love of Marius, who is basically tongue deep in Cosette. Both of them are very stupid and fall in love in an instant, which is not something to be faulted, but also is something to be like, really, bruh? Really? You had this girl who's been riding or dying for you, but you see this pretty little blonde girl and you're like, oh, I think I love her. Whatever. Besides the point, I believe that Eponine, as well as the greater public, believe that Eponine deserved better. She died being unloved by the man who she longed for so much. But there was another man who was sweet and tender and had a mistress called patriotism. Angelos, the leader of this group, the ABC Cafe, the one who wore the red coat, who was strong and fearless of a leader. Yes, a little gay for his friend who drank too much, but that stops us not from shipping him with Eponine. They would have made the power couple of the century. If we were to make this into an AU where they were like a small political group on a college campus, and she was like a scholarship student, and he was like a scholarship student as well, but like because he was like rich, but like his dad didn't want him to go into politics, so he had to get a scholarship, and she's also on a scholarship, but she's failing a class, and then he's like, do you need help in that class? And she's like, yes, I do. And then they fall in love, but they be like angsty because she's still kind of in love with Marius, but then he shows her what real love is. Let's be real, that would have been a beautiful story. Like, straight from my mind, a beautiful story. In probably the minds of 1,000 fanfics, they would have been perfect. And I am talking about specifically the version in the movie. Like, I do not love the 10th anniversary, the 25th anniversary, the original Broadway play. They are all beautiful characters, but Samantha Barks holds a place in my heart. She is the songstress of my life. And then, you all know. If you don't know, now you know. That man, and Tibet is just deep in my bones. I have loved that man since I don't know when, since I got into Broadway and heard his voice, since I saw him, like, just when he sees me, like, I love him. He's such a good actor, such a good singer, such a good performer. He owns Broadway. He should own Broadway. We should all be bowing down. And that's why I think the movie version did a great job casting him, and also casting Samantha Barks, who was very famous for playing Eponine in the anniversary version with Nick Jonas, where he was Marius. And I was just like, empty chairs and empty tables may be a sad banger, but you suck, sir. You suck, because you should have loved Eponine. She took a bullet for your dumb self. And I believe that they are both deep and beautiful and thoughtful and emotional and loving, and they would be perfect. Aaron Tveit and Samantha Barks, but like more than that, Andros and Eponine together forever, loving patriotism. She was poor. She could give him the insight of the people that he wanted to save. He was rich. He could fund her learning more knowledge. He could teach her so many things about the world and intellect, while she could teach him street smarts. Street smarts make book smarts, make patriotism, man. They would have been excellent together. Excellent. And I'm ashamed, appalled that they did not get that chance and that she died loving a loser. A big fat loser. Our next couple is straight out of Marvel, baby. Another superhero couple. Yeah, you heard me. And we all were probably anticipating this. It's Captain America and the Black Widow from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yes, Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson have a history of playing each other's lovers, and they play it well and beautifully. That's why when Captain America came out, not Civil War, not the first agenda, not the first Avenger, the second Captain America came out, Winter Soldier. They had a friendship that was so dynamic and beautiful and lovely and more strong and more lovely than any love interest they had shown us in the previous things. The thing about it is that essentially Black Widow ends up dying. If you don't know, now you know. And Captain America ends up with Peggy. But the storyline, the love storyline that we're all supposed to believe is that Black Widow loved the Hulk and Captain America loved Peggy. But, like, we don't see them with these people enough to really show a gracious love story that we could actually believe in. Like, if you've read the comics, obviously you know Captain America loves Peggy. And you see the first Avenger and it's like this beautiful love story. But, like, even throughout that, you're so focused on them getting to the actual part where he becomes Captain America and how he finds his missions and stuff. You're so focused on his friendship with Bucky that you don't even care about him and Peggy, for real, for real. Yeah, she gets a little jealous, but, like, other than that, it's not really that deep. And then with Avengers 1 and I guess the next Avengers, not Age of Ultron because he wasn't in that, but whatever else they're in, like when Thor 3, when like like, I don't really believe the Hulk and Captain America. I mean, the Hulk and Black Widow. Like, I don't believe that love story. Like, no offense, but I don't. And especially because I grew up watching Captain America, I think it was like 8 Avengers of the Second Age or something like that. Like, I can't remember what the title was, but it was like where they grew up, they had fought and they all had kids, and then their kids were like trying to fight evil, and Tony Stark was still alive. He was the only Avenger still alive. But you know whose kid was leading them all? Captain America and Black Widow's kid. That kid had guts, had balls, had the means and the drives to lead them all, just like his parents would have. First of all, Captain America and Black Widow have kissed. That's more we can say for any other group. I mean, I guess they've technically kissed, but like not in the way that they have. They have a foundation of friendship, of enemies turned friends, of partners. She was trying to set him up and help him find love. Just such a beautiful friendship, such a beautiful storyline.
I owe you. It's okay. If it was the other way around, and it was down to me to save your life, and you be honest with me, would you trust me to do it?
I would now. And I'm always honest.
Well, you seem pretty chipper for someone who just found out they died for nothing.
Wow. Guess I just like to know who I'm fighting.
They are 2 phenomenal actors who've already played love interests and know how to play that up really well. I feel like it was just a missed opportunity to not put them together. It could have been a way happier ending for Avengers Endgame instead of having her die and him, I guess, die or be with Peggy or whatever. They could have ended up together in an alternate timeline, which could have spurned more money for you, Marvel.
You know, I'd offer to cook you dinner, but you seem pretty miserable already.
You here to do your laundry?
And to see a friend.
Clearly your friend is fine.
That's besides the point. I'm not here to criticize and mock you, even though I'm mocking you just a little bit. I just think that they would have made a great couple, and they should have been together, and I feel like the universe also agrees. They were so phenomenal, so loving, so beautiful, so happy, and just so badass. Like, it wasn't like you needed to be pulled away from the storyline of them being superheroes to understand them, like with Peggy and Cap, or with Natasha and Bruce. No, they were superheroes, and they had a dynamic that went beyond anything, and that kept even when they were superheroes. Even in Civil War, where she was on the opposite side of him, she rode or died for him. She attacked T'Challa for him because she knew she had to protect her man. And you all have fumbled the, say it with me, people, bag. Bang, bang. This couple we can all agree on. We could all agree on. Let's be real. Like, maybe like 4% of the population believes that they shouldn't have been together. That 4% is wrong. It's Katara and Zuko from Avatar, The Last Airbender.
What are you doing?
Keeping rocks from crushing you.
Okay, I'm not crushed. You can get off me now.
While it is beautiful to have this love story of friends going to love and like all this other stuff, Airbender and Waterbender, they were each other's at best childhood crush. At best childhood crush. She had a deeper vein and a deeper knowledge of what was going on with her life and who has betrayed her in these aspects.
This isn't fair. Everyone else seems to trust me now. What is it with you?
Oh, everyone trusts you now? I was the first person to trust you, remember?
Your sister.
With Zuko. She should have been with Zuko. It's just to be said. Like, what else can I say? Like, look at this.
Since the day you first captured me.
So you worked things out with your girlfriend?
I'm
She's not my girlfriend.
Do you see that tension, that dynamic, that beauty? Does she have that with Aang? No. Aang is essentially her little brother for most of the series. And all of a sudden we're supposed to buy that, like, she's like, oh, I guess I could fuck him. And, like, I guess that could be my husband forever. Like, no. I would much rather buy and sell the story of a man who was broken and damaged by his father to hunt the woman he will end up eventually loving, to unite the fire and the water kingdoms under one rule to permanently secure unity in case the next Avatar wants to go off like Aang did. You know what? That would be a story for the ages. The way that they fought in the final battle against Azula gave me so much passion. Like, I thought I was imagining it. Like, since the Crystal Caves, I thought I was imagining Zuko and Katara. I was like, maybe it's just me. Like, maybe the caves meant nothing when she was gonna heal him. Maybe it didn't mean anything. I don't know. Oh. But then, the final battle with him and Azula, where he almost died to protect Katara, I was like, this is it. I was right the whole time. They should have been together. This is another Harry Potter scenario where they put her with the wrong fucking dude out of like some weird trying to plot twist loyalty. Like, it just didn't make sense to me how she could end up with Aang. Because while I do understand that they like have a deep love for each other, of friendship, of a bond that they have gone across 4 books, I would have much rather seen Aang end up getting with Toph. Like, so why not have Toph end up with Aang? This, like, dynamic, like, kind of a struggle relationship of 2 very powerful beings. And then have Zuko end up with Katara. Another beautiful struggle that could have spurned a beautiful spin-off of how fire met water and it became steamy. It just makes the most sense. Like, that trope, it's tried, it's true. Haters turn to lovers. Tried and true, works every time, and this could have been a prime example of it. But instead, we gave Aang everything he wanted because I guess he defended our nation after he moved out when he wasn't supposed to be, or whatever. You know, I don't even want to argue about this. I don't even want to talk about this. You know what? Let's just move to our last couple, because if I continue, I will be pissed. Our last couple is from the Dirty South. Not really the Dirty South, actually. It's from my favorite show. I guess my favorite and one of my least favorite shows. Vampire Diaries and the originals. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why do you have this feathered fan? Because I'm a New Orleans Southern belle at this point while I describe the story of Klaus and Caroline. Caroline is a beautiful Southern belle who turned vampire in Vampire Diaries. She was a self-centered girl who actually turned out to be pretty amazing once she got supernatural powers. Klaus is the international hybrid. His mom fucked a werewolf and I guess made him into a vampire, so he is probably one of the most powerful beings in the world. He slept with Haley, which was just a whole nother mess. His daughter's witch powers came out. She became the Tribid. Dope story. Caroline got implanted with babies, gave out vampire babies, but they weren't really vampires. They're just witches. So she gave out 2 twin girls who were Gemini twins, the strongest witches in the game. You know what kind of blended family they could have had? You know what I would have gave for a sitcom about the blended family of Caroline and Klaus?
No, I don't
That would be so good.
our time together.
But I'm afraid no eyes to see, it's plain as day. We had it once, but life's a maze. I wanna talk, but I can't say. You make it hard and I'm to blame.
Especially since Haley died. Like, Haley had died at some point. We could have been like, oh, R.I.P. that hoe, but also, hey, Hope, here's your new mother. Here's your new mom. Like, it would have just been such a great story. Like, but we had to kill Klaus. So, I guess happiness really doesn't exist in the CW, does it? It's just this complicated thing for me that I don't understand. Because Caroline was very much in love with Klaus as much as she denied it. She eventually, you know, fell in love with him.
I think a part of me has always known that you weren't the villain of my story.
Klaus, she was the only person that could make Klaus not a monster, and it's one of the reasons why we all fell in love with Klaus as a character, because we saw this other side to him that he truly, truly loved her. But then they were separated. They were on 2 different shows, Vampire Diaries and Originals. And eventually, Vampire Diaries ended and Originals was coming to an end. And in that last season, we got a lot of Caroline. We got our wish. Shippers thought we were finally going to get what we wanted, Klaus and Caroline together and happy. Both of their children, their witchy power, the 3 most powerful witches in the game, if we're being honest, all blended together and just beautiful. But then they killed Klaus and they couldn't be together. Even though we all know Caroline wanted it. Like, it's one of the most frustrating things that I have to think about, because it would be different if they didn't continue to tease Caroline and Klaus in, like, Legacies now, which is the 3rd spinoff after Originals and the original Vampire Diaries. If they didn't continue to tease them, then we wouldn't have this problem. There's literally an episode where Hope has a breakdown because she is wearing the dress, the Miss Mystic Falls dress. Not Miss Mystic Falls. She's wearing it in a Miss Mystic Falls competition, but it is the dress, accidentally, that she wore that Klaus gave Caroline in the first couple episodes where we finally started to ship them, where we were like, wow, he may be more than a monster. It seems that he has deep emotional attachments to Caroline, a character none of us cared about, if we're being very honest. None of us cared about her until Klaus came.
But I'll let you in on a little secret. There's a whole world out there waiting for you. Great cities and art and music. genuine beauty.
Until Klaus came, we all treated her as a second fiddle. We treated her as if she was Matt. Matt, just useless until you're apparently not useless. But then Klaus came and it gave her this deeper power and source and like this manipulation over such a powerful creature, and they started to use her, and then she used her smarts and kept going, and then she was pregnant with the Gemini twins, so she became more potent again. Like, not to say that a man gave her validation, but like he is one of the reasons why she was such a badass character in the end of it, and she is one of the reasons, but on the flip side, she is one of the reasons that he was such a likable character and likable enough to get his own spin-off.
Why would she do this?
It's pretty basic. Some girls just like the bad boys. The more sheltered they are, the more likely it is.
You say that like it's inevitable. It's not a rite of passage.
For some girls it is. It was for me. If there was a bad boy within a 5-mile radius, I would find him. And some were even way too old for me.
Well, I'm sure some had very pure intentions.
Maybe.
Maybe.
It just is. Like, they would have made such a beautiful couple, such a beautiful story, and such a beautiful, like, just journey that they could have had together. But instead of having Hope, Lizzie, and Josie all be sisters, stepsisters, which would have just made the most awesome Power of 3 comparison, we let him die. And let her just escape from the Legacy Vampire Diaries original world. So now we're all stuck watching Legacies, hoping for pieces of Caroline to come through. It's probably the most disappointing one on this list because it is truly the one that had the most potential, that made the most sense, that could have kept the story even more interesting and engaging, but they have decided to crush our hearts like Shonda Rhimes instead. With that being said, that is the last one on our list. So, thank you for joining me. I'm Yummy.com. Don't worry, I will be back, so stay tuned, my internet friends.